Let's talk about netdecking, what it is, the pros and cons of it, and how you can do it in Magic Arena, copying, importing decks. Let's get to it. Welcome back to Game School Dad with me, Martin. So we're talking about netdecking, and what netdecking is effectively is taking a deck from another place, like online, from a website, or from someone else sharing it in a group, and importing that deck or copying that deck into Magic Arena so that you can use that deck too. So it's a shortcut to getting a really good deck that works pretty effectively, because normally when someone shares a deck online or posts it in a group, it's normally one they're proud of or one that works really well. People don't very often tend to share decks that are awful, although maybe sometimes they do. So if you find a deck that works really well and you want to use it for yourself, you can copy it into Arena, and there you go, you've got that deck. Now, building your own deck can be really fun. I really enjoy building decks, and there is an art and a science to it, and I don't want to take anything away from building a deck. It's really, really fun. But some people don't like building decks, and I don't feel like everyone has to like building decks. It's not the main part of the game. The main part of the game is actually trying to get your opponent down to 0. So if you're the kind of person who doesn't enjoy building decks, or maybe just isn't very good at it, this is how you can get started using decks that work really well, or at least taking a really effective deck and then just tweaking it and making it fit the card collection you have and the playstyle you like. So the main pro for netdecking for yourself, if you want to copy a deck from online, the main pro is that it saves you time and effort. It means you get to use a deck that works pretty well without having to think about it too much. You still have to learn how to use the deck and how the cards interact and the best strategy for actually winning the games, but it saves you the effort of having to build a deck yourself. And the main drawback, the main con for netdecking is it means that you're very, very likely when you're playing the game to face the same people, the same deck over and over again. So you're going to see the same Monastery Swift Spear coming out on turn 1, or the same Crawling Chorus, or the same turn 1 Consider from the mono blue deck. It might make some games feel very repetitive because you're just playing against the same thing over and over again. But there's not really any way to avoid that, because the decks that happen to work really well, one way or another, are going to be shared, are going to be found out, discovered, and copied. So I think it's just something that's going to happen no matter what. Now, the benefit for you, if you're playing against a deck where you've seen it 100 times before, is you probably know what they're going to do next. It's a really big part of the game to be able to predict what your opponent is going to do, the kind of cards that work well in their deck, and if they're using a deck that is copied and pasted from somewhere, it means you've got a really good chance of predicting what they're going to do next, anticipating their moves, and being able to work around them. It's when you're playing against someone who's made a completely random deck with different things in it that you've never seen before, at least not together, then you have no idea what to expect. They could bring out anything at all. Those kind of games can be more interesting in some ways, but they can also be a lot harder to know what's going to happen, a lot harder to predict the next move. Also, there are sometimes decks that just happen to build themselves, so you don't have to necessarily look online to find the best mono red deck, because you can just throw every small, hasty damage creature into a mono red deck and the minimal number of lands, and suddenly you have a deck that looks like everyone else's anyway. Sometimes in a set you might have cards that work together so well that they kind of just build themselves, so like the blue and white soldier deck from Dominaria United, they just kind of build themselves. There's a lot of synergy between soldiers, so it's just natural someone's going to make it. And the same thing with Phyrexia All-Be-One with the mono white toxic or the green and white toxic decks. There's normally a number of cards that work together pretty well, and you just shove them all in and it just works. So whether you want to just copy a deck from online because you don't want to have to think about deck building yourself, or you just want to see what's out there and maybe make your own version based off another deck that people tend to use, I'm going to show you how you can copy decks from online and import them into Arena, and then how you can tweak them to fit your playstyle, your card collection. So when you want to copy a deck from online, you just have to find a place that's going to give you the deck list. So MTG Goldfish is one option. Ether Hub's another good one as well. So I'm going to show you how to copy decks from those websites. So first of all, we're looking at MTG Goldfish. We can have a look here at popular decks, and let's have a look at Grixis Midrange, a very popular deck. Now, if you have a look at the deck list, you can see that it will show you who's made the deck, what kind of deck it is. It will tell you how much it costs if you wanted to buy it in paper. And you've got the whole deck list here. So it shows you all the different cards. Now you can change this from the tabletop version, which gives you the price of the cards, to Arena that tells you the rarity of the cards, which is really useful to know. And if you're interested in Magic Online, then you can have a look at the cost of that in Magic Online. But we're looking at Arena first. And we can also have a look at the stats for the deck and see all kinds of things like the mana value, the colors, the different card types as well. And we can even do a sample hand just to see what good luck or bad luck we might have when we're drawing those cards. So if we want to copy the deck, we go down to export to Arena here, export to Arena, and it gives us this list here. So this is a list of all the cards, including the sideboard, and we can just copy those and head back over to Arena. And with that list of the cards copied onto our clipboard on the computer, we can just go to the import button down here and select import, and it will import the deck from the clipboard. So now we have this imported deck here. So this list will show us all the cards in the deck, including the ones that we don't have. The ones that we don't have are going to be grayed out, and the ones that we do have will be there in bright. And we can just click craft all, and if we have enough wildcards, we can just craft the whole deck. But with this one, we don't have enough wildcards. Even though I have quite a few, it's going to take more than the 26 rares or the 11 mythics that I have in order to make this. It's probably because of all the rare lands. So if we really wanted to, what we could do is we could take out all these rare lands. They're nice to have, and they really help. Let's take that out, see if we can craft it. Okay, so 5 commons, 9 uncommons, 16 rares, and 3 mythics. I could use all 33 wildcards to craft this deck, and that leaves me with 10 more rares as well. So I could put in some of those rare lands again, or I could just actually go to the lands that I do have, and if I want something that is, what do I need? Blue, black, or red, I can have a look. I might have some other black and red. They might not be as good as the other black and red lands, because these ones come in untapped and these ones come in tapped. But if it's the best you can do, then sure, let's put in what we've got. So we've got, yeah, throw in some other ones. But you could put in enough lands to make up the lands that you've taken out, and then we could craft this deck, and suddenly we have this deck we can use. I'm not going to craft it because I'm not using my wildcards on this account, but you get the point. And if we wanted to do the same on Ether Hub, it's pretty much the same process, but I'll show you on here just so you can see as well. We can have a look at different decks. We can just look at user decks that are in standard, and these are different decks that people have submitted. So we can just pick one of those, and then we can go to export, copy the deck list, Magic Arena format, copy to clipboard, and then we've got that deck. So that deck's now on our clipboard, and we're back over to Magic Arena, and we do the same thing. We can import the deck, now successfully imported, and we have that deck now from Ether Hub. Again, we have lots of cards here that we don't have. We could go to craft it all. We don't have enough wild cards, so again, maybe take out the rare lands and replace it with other lands that we have, and see if we have enough to then craft the deck. And if we want to see maybe the most popular decks that are being used at the moment, rather than just picking any one thing, we can have a look at the Meta Hub here, constructed meta game for standard, and it will show us the different decks that are being used in standard and the percentage share of how often we're likely to see those decks. So 15% mono red, we have 10% mono black, but another 3% that's probably pretty similar. There are a few different cards in there. And then we have the blue and white soldiers, mono white, mono blue, Grixis, and so on. So if we wanted to make, let's just say mono red, because sure, who doesn't want a mono red deck? We've got here, this one uses, we've got Squee, Thundering Raiju, Sushi. So we've got a few other rares and mythics, Mechanized Warfare as well. We can go export, Magic Arena format, copy to clipboard. Take that over to Arena, import it. Yes. Have a look at the imported deck. This time we've got a much better chance of being able to craft everything because we have quite a few of them already. So we can go craft, and there we go. It doesn't take quite so many rares or mythics. So we can just craft that and start using it. Another place you might go to find decks to copy is YouTube, because lots of different content creators like to upload deck gameplay videos and show you decks that they've made. So you could come to your favorite YouTuber and you can have a look at, sometimes if they're nice, they'll have a deck video where they actually include the deck list in the description as well. And if they do, you can just highlight this, copy it to your clipboard, head back over to Arena, import, and it does exactly the same thing as it does for the other ones. So now we have another imported deck. And do we have all the cards? No, we don't. But we can craft all of these. And there you go. It doesn't take too many wild cards to make this deck. But again, we might want to change things. We might think that we want to take out Thrun because we don't have Thrun and put in something else. So let's just see what other rare or mythic cards we have for green that maybe we can replace with. Let's have a look at some bigger things. Maybe we want to put in Gigantosaurus. Maybe we want to put in a couple of consuming blobs. I don't know. So yeah, we can basically just change the deck as we want it, save it, keep it, craft it all. You can craft from in there, or you can also click on the button down here to craft all, and it will show you again the same thing. You need all these wildcards to do it, and I'm not going to use my wildcards because I want those wildcards for other things later on, possibly. But there's the other thing we can do where we can copy or export decks from our list. So we can go to the, say, the mono white toxic deck that we've got, and we can copy that if we want to make some changes. We can have a second version, so we can take out some things from this one, change some things around, and then we've got two different versions. So just in case we want to save one copy and make a new one, slight deck variation there. Or if we're really, really proud of our deck and we want to share it somewhere, we can click on the export button here, and it will do exactly the same thing as copying from other websites or from YouTube. It will give us the deck list in the format of having the quantity of the cards, the name of the card, the set the cards from, and an individual number for that card in that set. So you can then share that online, or you can send it from one account of yours to another, or whatever you want to do with that deck. So there you go. It's all pretty straightforward. That's how you copy decks from online, import them into Arena, or copy your own decks to make different variations, or export those to share them online with other people. And you can use those decks as they are, or you can just swap out what you don't have and put in what you do have, so you have maybe the closest version to that deck that you can have, or just use it for inspiration, so you see what cards happen to be pretty popular in that deck, and maybe you want to change things up, add a different color. Whatever you might want to do, you can just take inspiration from that deck and build your own from there. So let me know what you think in the comments below. Is netdecking something that you do, or do you always like to just build your own decks from scratch? Do you use the popular mono red things that come out every set? And let me know if this video was helpful for you as well. That's all we've got time for, but don't forget you can like this video and subscribe to the channel to make sure you don't miss out on any future Magic content from me. And thanks for watching this video to the end. I'll see you in the next one.